This is my passion. This is Ike's Outdoors. Hey guys, Ike here from IkesOutdoors.com. Today's video is about shooting back tension with a non-back tension release. I'm going to show you a couple that I've got here and just show you how I'm shooting back tension with them. What I'm using and what I'm going to continue to use is this Carter Colby 2, and this is a hinge style release. But with a little bit of work, you can shoot back tension with a thumb release or an index finger release. So I'm going to show you how I do that with these two style releases. And of course, my thumb style release is a very old Vegas 3. Don't even know who made this thing, but my cousin gave it to me, and I don't shoot a thumb style release, so this is what I got. But it has a very sensitive trigger on it. We're going to try to change that up here real quick and make it a little less sensitive. Alright, so the first thing you're going to need to do this with a non-back tension style release is one with a heavy trigger in it. That's really going to be the biggest thing to make this work. And this one does not have a heavy trigger in it. So, but it's the only thumb style release I got, so I can show you guys how to do it. So basically, you're going to have grip on a thumb release. You're going to grip it like you always would, and on your trigger, you're going to put your thumb on there. And the actual process where I'm never going to engage my thumb. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my thumb right here next to it, just like that. And when I rotate this around with back tension, I'm going to push with this hand, and I'm going to pull through my shoulder. And what that's going to allow, or through my elbow, I'm just going to pull, continue to pull. Once that bow gets to the back wall, I'm just going to pull like I'm trying to pull through the back wall. And what that's going to do is going to allow this thumb style release to actually rotate. It's going to force it to rotate. And when it does, I'm going to put my thumb right there on it like that, and I'm actually going to make it rotate right up into my thumb, and that's going to set the thing off. So at full draw, I'm going to push with this hand, I'm going to pull with this one like I'm trying to pull through the wall, and it's going to set it off using back tension. And like I said, the biggest thing is to have a release that's got a heavy trigger on it, and that's really going to help you to do this. So we're going to push, I'm going to pull, and it's going to set that thing off using back tension. My thumb never actually rotated, never actually moved. All that moved was the actual release. It just rotated just like this into my thumb and eventually set it off. So pretty easy to do with a thumb style release. And like I said, the bigger the tension on this thing, the harder it is to set it off, the easier it's going to be. This one is extremely sensitive. I just pulled through it pretty slow. But that's basically how you're going to do it. You're going to push with this hand, you're going to pull through this elbow, which is going to basically be pulling through your back. And it's going to allow that release to rotate. Just pull through that back wall like you're trying to pull completely through it, like you're continuing to, like your 27-inch draw and you're trying to pull to 30. And it's going to allow that thing to rotate, and when it does, it's going to rotate right up into your thumb, and it's going to set it off. So that's pretty easy to do with a thumb style release. Now with an index finger style release, wrist strap release, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. You're really going to have a heavy trigger, and you're really going to have your back tension down. But I've got a Carter Colby 2, or that's my other one. This is a Carter Quickie 1 here that I've modified a little bit. It's got a 4-pound spring in it. It's got a really heavy spring, and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do with it. Basically, same thing. Gonna hook it up. You're gonna push, and you're gonna pull. And when I do this one, I'm gonna actually wrap my index finger all the way around it, and I'm gonna bring my whole hand up here. But I'm gonna move my hand now, just to get it out of the way. But I'm gonna put my hand on here, up here, just like I'm rotating my hinge style release. So I'm gonna come to full draw. I'm gonna push through here. I'm gonna pull through the elbow. And I'm never going to actually move my finger. And I did it wrong. So I didn't have enough wrapped around it. You're going to feel your finger sliding on the trigger. So I'm going to shorten this thing up a little bit. And get a good grip on your trigger. And it's going to set that thing off just like that. So I never actually using my index finger. Gonna have to have a good wrap around it and a good strong spring in there, a good high tension. This is about a 4-pound spring, and as I pull back, you can see I just broke my deal, but you can see my finger sliding off of the trigger when I do it like that, and that is actually engaging the trigger and setting this thing off. So now I've got to kind of improvise with my rope here, but so we're gonna improvise here a little bit. But push with your bow arm and just pull through the elbow. And it'll get it to go off just like that. And like I said, this one has a really heavy trigger in it, which is allowing it to work just like this. And I'm not able to pull right because I just broke this thing. So I'm just going to shorten it up just like that and show you. Mainly focus on my hand here, and that's what we're going to, and that's going to set it off just like that. And you can see my actual index finger is not, I'm not yanking on the trigger like I am like that. I'm not moving my index finger. I'm not traveling my index finger at all. As I'm pulling through, my index finger is actually coming up, and this rope is really hurting me right now. And my index finger is actually coming up and sliding along the trigger and slowly pulling it. And I'm actually pulling through my elbow. When I do this right, if I had a proper string here, I would have it up just like this and be pulling basically my entire, not my finger, I'm pulling my entire arm, my entire elbow back. Like I said, you want to imagine you're a 27-inch draw and you're trying to pull that bow to 30. And you just keep that index finger full, keep that index finger solid, and it will actually rotate that thing right around. Now, one thing I've noticed is when I do it, as my finger slides, you got to be putting a little bit of tension on the trigger. You can't just be letting your finger slide. You got to put a little bit of tension on that trigger, and that's why you need the heavy trigger. Because if it's so sensitive, as soon as I put a little bit of tension on it, like I've got a firm pull on it right now, and as I start sliding up, it sets the thing off. It basically increases that tension on it as my hand goes out. So that's what you really got to watch, and the reason you got to have a heavy trigger. So same reason with this one. When you pull and it starts to rotate, if that trigger is ultra sensitive like this one is, it's just going to rotate right around and it's going to hit and go off. So the biggest thing with these is you're going to need a heavy trigger. But that's basically how I shoot back tension using an index finger or a thumb style release. You're really just pushing with your bow arm, pulling through your elbow and trying to pull through that back wall until that wrist on the thumb release, until it rotates right over into your thumb. With the index style release, you got to put a little bit of tension on there, and as you pull through, your finger, the tension will eventually just mount up, and it'll actually pull that thing pretty crisp and pretty clean. So that's how I use back tension to set off my thumb release and my index finger release. And of course I'm using this one, Carter Colby 2, which is a hinge release right now, and I'm not using any of the other ones. But when it comes to hunting season, I'll have a decision to make whether I'm going to continue with the hinge style release or go to something different for hunting. And the only reason I don't like the hinge style release for hunting is because I got to have two hands to set the thing up. I can't just, I can't set it and leave it like this, because if I do, it's gonna, as soon as it moves, it'll come loose. So I may or may not use the hinge for hunting, but if I don't use the hinge, I'll probably use a thumb style release, and that way I have the same feel and I can go through the same motion and everything like that. So index fingers definitely a little harder to do and definitely takes a little bit more work. Thumb style release, if you've got one with a heavy enough trigger, is a lot easier to imitate that back tension style of release with it. So I hope this helps you guys out, and for more product reviews, how-to videos, I've got one on how to use that hinge, and got a video series called Project Ike that kind of goes through my process of learning how to use that hinge and learning how to use back tension. You can visit our website at ikesoutdoors.com. Appreciate you guys watching.